Your vote is your ICE whistle, and we all need to blow it. Thank you.
So, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to open up for questions. I will just say I think it is really important from what you've heard today to understand this is a thing that we all have to fight through, which is how often can we talk about this? I have 2 daughters. I'm pretty transparent about what I do for work. I don't know that I can tell them what I would see here, but I want us all to challenge that we have to go and tell these stories about what is happening, because it's otherwise happening in secret, for profit, to children and to families, and behind bars. It is not visible. And there is violence that is more visible, whether it is the killings in Houston, whether it is the racial profiling outside of a Home Depot or in Phoenix, whether or not it is what we are seeing on a really, really tough and difficult day to Haitians, and whether or not it is seeing this huge expansion of law enforcement to immigration enforcement here in Texas. And so it is on us to make things that are less visible, visible. I did not know, and I don't think any of us do until today, that we are looking at a 300 or 400% increase in the number of families who are being held, just since we were here 2 months ago, and we have to do that. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and we'll happily open it up for questions.
Congressman Castro, this is your 7th or 8th visit to the facility. Why is it important for you to continue to go back there and show more people in the facility?
Well, you know, many folks have seen, in fact, all of America has seen the brutality of ICE on the streets. They've seen the agents in masks with guns drawn, no warrants, storming cars and pulling people out of cars and separating crying kids from their parents. But the members of Congress are the only ones that can go behind those prison walls and attest to the world what's going on there. And this is at a moment where the administration is becoming more secretive, not more transparent. So I invite every single member of Congress, in fact, I would encourage every member of Congress, regardless of political affiliation, to go into the Dilley Detention Center and meet with those children. And if they agree with child detention, to look those kids in the eye and tell them that they agree with child detention. Look those families in the eye and let them know that they're okay with them being there. We are not, and so we believe that Dilley should be shut down. In order to do that, we have to report to the world what's going on.
Okay.
Yes, Antonio.
Okay. You just said something. You said, I wish all members of Congress will go there and see for themselves what is going on inside those walls. My question to you is this: I can see then that women from the women caucus. If you believe that every Democrat in Congress will rally behind your efforts, will you have the vote of each one of the Democrats in Congress supporting you?
Well, look, I think you see that we got 110 Democratic members to sign on to the letter to shut Dilley down. Democrats still don't control Congress or the presidency, but I believe that when we do, I believe that the Dilley Detention Center will be shut down. But we also shouldn't wait that long as a nation. It should be shut down immediately. It happened once under a Democratic president, President Obama, President Biden, and it can happen again. And one thing we didn't report out earlier is that we asked again who the youngest person there is. And again, the youngest person there is 2 months old. That place, that prison is no place to have a 2-month-old baby or even a 1-year-old baby be present. And so, yes, I believe we can get it shut down.
Nancy Prayer-Johnson, San Antonio Express News. Were you given access to every part of the facility? And in that way, also, did anybody have a hard time gaining access as well? And then who were you able to speak with once you were in there?
Well, so here I've mentioned a few times that ICE has gotten more secretive. When Markwayne Mulla, the new Secretary of DHS, came in, they no longer put up a sign-up sheet announcing that there was a congressional delegation coming to visit. They used to do that in order to allow any of the detainees who wanted to speak with the members of Congress, including all the families, to actually sign up to speak with us. They cut that out completely. And so today, we were only able to speak with one child of all the children there. And so they're becoming more and more secretive, which I believe is more dangerous for the people who are in that prison and really for the public generally. And you know, in terms of these visits, they allot 2 hours for us to do the inspection. So as a member of Congress, you're constantly having to balance how much of the facility you want to see versus how much time do you want to spend talking to the people who are in prison. And so we spent about an hour actually talking to people, about 20 minutes asking questions. At one point, to give you a sense of the secrecy, and I'm not exaggerating here, one of my colleagues asked the assistant ICE director for San Antonio, who oversees this region, how many ICE employees, how many federal employees do you have employed at this facility? And she said that she didn't want to tell us the answer to that she was unwilling to tell us the answer to that. That's the language that they used, that they were unwilling to tell us, members of Congress charged with the oversight responsibility, how many federal employees are at this facility. So that's the level of secrecy that we're talking about.
And again, they didn't let you have cameras, phones, nothing like that.
No, they don't let you document for the world exactly what's going on there, because I believe that most Americans and even most elected officials, if they could see the trauma in these kids' eyes, they would want Dilley shut down as well.
Congressman Castro, reported with the Texas Public Radio. Just a question about if the detention center was actually shut down, if there's any plans in place as to where people would go or other immigration cases would be handled after.
Well, remember, first of all, none of these folks have committed a crime. So the overwhelming majority of them were living in communities, not hurting anyone and being productive members of society. So they can easily be monitored in their communities. And we've seen that. We've seen folks who are released on habeas corpus petitions who are allowed back to their homes and who are monitored with ankle bracelets and so forth. Now, bear in mind, again, there's a lot of them who've lived here, some of them for a few decades, without any kind of ankle monitor or anything, that have not committed any crime at all. And so, yes, I think that they could be allowed back into their homes, and we could monitor them. And they would do what they were doing before, which is they would show up for their court hearings when they're supposed to and follow the laws. The 16-year-old girl that we spoke with, she and her dad, they had, I believe it was them, I think they had their asylum, they had authorization until 2028. So they're sitting there in 2026 right now. They have 2 more years where they were here legally at least. And that's the case with a lot of these folks, is they follow the rules, and now they're asking, well, why are you putting me in a prison? If I followed all of your rules, I did what you said, the way you said I should do it, and now here I am.
The 16-year-old girl, where's she from?
San Antonio.
Yeah, also, I mean, I think not only does it incense me that this is that people are profiting off of the pain of children and families, and but the other thing is that, you know, none of this is naturally occurring. It's all man-made. So the cruelty, you know, very much is the point. But in addition to the medical neglect, the human rights abuses, the violation of constitutional rights, and more, Congressman Castro and I were talking with a family, and you know, in the work of oversight, the great Elijah Cummings, our former chair, would tell us that our charge was to be an efficient and effective pursuit of the truth. That truth is being obstructed at every turn. Detainees are signing consent forms and cannot even get a copy of the consent forms they are signing. And Congressman Castro, what was the one instance where they thought they were signing one thing for consent, and what they actually signed were self-deportation forms? So again, the abuse goes beyond even the physicality of things. And then finally, I would say, we were not able to see more than one child. There were 112 children, and we spoke to that one 16-year-old. But it was eerie in the intake space to see posters of Moana and Ninja Turtles, and Bluey was playing on the screen. And I had asked, are there toys and books and things for the children? And they said yes. The thing is, even if they provided them with a plethora of playing options, no child should be in jail. They told us out of the 112 children, they range in age from 2 months to 18. So if a cage is gilded, it is still a cage, and they should not be there.
Any final question?
Just one. You work?
This is my 7th this year.
7. And every time you go in, when you come out, you tell us a horrific stories inside. They don't abide by the same rules as everybody else. I mean, here is an oversight committee. There, you ask questions, they don't even answer the questions they should be answering. Why do they keep allowing you to go in?
Listen, that's a great question. And this is what I described to you as a big part of the reason that myself and the others here voted against giving ICE more than $100 billion extra money over the past year. Because we it's damaging not only to the human beings that are in prison, including the children, but it's also damaging to the United States of America. And I will say, you know, I think all of us, we were shocked that they wouldn't give us basic answers, like how many federal employees, how many ICE agents are working at this facility. And I've got to say, during this new administration, secretary, we noted before that they're reading from a script. When we ask them questions, they read from the script. And also disappointed that the ICE field director in San Antonio has not shown up the last few delegations that we've taken over to Dilley. You know, has not even shown up to Dilley to be present for that, even though we're trying to do our work there.
Are there still National Guard National Guard there? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I can take that. We asked that question and they're in a changeover, but there will continue to be a National Guard presence. And we asked, that was another number that we couldn't get a precise answer to, but eventually got the sense that, or an answer that there had been about 2 dozen Texas National Guard there. But I wanted to also just add one thing to what Congressman Castro answered as to why they continue to let Congressman Castro visit, and that's because they have to. Because it is the law that members of Congress have the right to inspect ICE detention facilities. It's written into the law that appropriates the funding, and it is the law. And what we have seen is that unfortunately that law has been violated consistently by this administration, and that members of Congress have had to sue to get access to these facilities. They've implemented all kinds of rules. You have to give 48 hours notice. You have to do all kinds of things to get in there. The 2 hours to the question about what did we see, we didn't get to see everything that we wanted to see because we were cut off after 2 hours. And I made a comment on the way out saying, oh, I thought we were going to go back to the medical unit after we visited people. Well, your 2 hours are up. And so they're implementing a lot of rules that are out of nowhere to limit the amount of oversight, but at the end of the day, the American people have demanded that we have the ability to conduct this oversight, to go into these facilities, but we need to use every tool that we have, which means we have had to go to the court to enforce it. Members of Congress have had to sue for that right, and we need everybody speaking up in every platform in every way that they can, because what we're seeing now is that to be successful here, especially in this Republican-controlled Congress that will not check this administration, that will not hold these oversight hearings, that will not conduct these oversight visits, that everyone, everywhere, from the Congress to the courts to the community, needs to be speaking out and speaking out as loudly as possible. And I do think that when we all do that, we will be able to continue to do the work of oversight, and we will be able to get this Dilley detention facility closed. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you.